So have any of you guys watched that new Predator show, Killer of Killers? So I have to admit, shows like this are a guilty pleasure of mine. And this one was really fun, especially the storyline with the samurai, ninjas, and Predator. I don't know, maybe it traces back to my love of G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, that whole rivalry. Yeah, the whole ninja versus samurai thing just sucks me in. In fact, a couple of years ago when I was in Tokyo, I went to their samurai sword museum. Let me tell you, it was worth the trip. Now, the reason I'm talking about all this is, did you know that the samurai practiced the art of kodo, aka the way of fragrance? So over 1,000 years ago, these warriors started using incense to calm the mind, steady the nerve, and purify the spirit before battle. And the samurai weren't alone in this. You go back to ancient Rome. Roman generals would bathe themselves in fragrant balms before battle, believing that the scents would actually inspire confidence not only in their troops, but in themselves. Throughout medieval Europe, fragrances were used as a status symbol. They signified rank, refinement, and nobility. So how does this translate to you as a modern man, and why do you want to smell good? Well, first up, scent is primal. It's the only one of our senses that has a direct link to the brain, and the effect of scents trigger powerful emotions. In fact, you can't separate emotion from scent because the parts of your brain that govern memory, feelings, and scent are so closely intertwined. In simple terms, scent influences perception. How we see ourselves, how we see others, how we interpret the current situation. And the data backs this up. There was a whole study. They showed students pictures of the same individual. But with one of the pictures, with one of the guys, a pleasant scent was associated with it. The result? Well, even though it was the same photo, the picture with the pleasant scent, well, that guy was viewed as more competent, more attractive, more trustworthy. Straight up, gents, smelling good gives you an advantage. It's literally an invisible secret to success. So then, how to smell good all day without overdoing it? Well, first up, it all starts in the shower. You want to shower daily or shower multiple times a day if you obviously get dirty, work out, or are engaged in activity that causes you to sweat profusely. Because as you probably know, your scent, your odor, isn't actually so much how you smell, but it's actually how the bacteria that's eating and digesting your sweat, it's how the waste product of that bacteria actually smells. And of course, on the body, it's not evenly distributed. Because on most of our body, we've just got eccrine glands. The sweat emitted here is mostly water and salt. No, it's in the apocrine glands, which we find in our armpits and our groin. It's here where we have a more potent mix in the sweat. And when the bacteria starts to do its work here, this is where the real strong smells come from. Now, daily showering, even if just with water, does a pretty good job of keeping the bacteria growth at bay. That being said, you do need to use a soap. I advise going with something relatively mild, unscented if you can find it. And what you want to avoid are harsh antibacterial soaps. You'll see a lot of these for hand washing. You don't want to use these on your body though. You also want to avoid soaps and body washes that come off as being overly scented. Most of these are using harsh synthetics, and the smell that they leave afterward can come off as way too strong and interfere with any fragrance or anything else you want to wear later. Now, right out the shower, you want to be using a moisturizer. And the reason being is you just used soap on your body. You just removed a thin layer of protective oil. So guess what? You want to use a moisturizer to recreate that protective layer and keep your skin from drying out. In general, I prefer products that are unscented or lightly scented using natural ingredients. Because as you know, moisturizers, when you put them on your body, they enter the body, they penetrate the skin. And by the way, if you have really dry skin, look for a moisturizer with a higher concentration of oil. These usually aren't going to be absorbed into the skin as well, and instead they're going to stay on the outside, again, providing that protective layer throughout the day. So we're now 10 minutes out of the shower. You've applied your body oil, you've done some basic grooming, you're getting dressed for the day. Well, at about this point, I advise you spray on a fragrance. Now, at this point, some of you guys are saying, Antonio, do I really need something? I mean, I'm clean. I should smell clean, right? I get that. And of course, you can make your own choice here. You can choose to go fragrance free. And you know, I totally get that point of view and I respect it. I had it for the longest time. But think of fragrance like offense on a football team. Being clean, showering, that is defense. But you want to have a bit of offense. You want to be able to project. You want to be able to send an invisible signal out to the world that you do smell good, that you're here, that you have entered the space. Now, wearing a fragrance doesn't have to be overdone. First up, you want to understand what you're wearing. Is this a beast mode fragrance that one spray is all you need? Or is this a fragrance that flies under the radar, doesn't really have strong projection? So maybe you want to have 3 sprays in the chest, 1 spray in the back of the neck, 1 or 2 sprays on each forearm. My point is different fragrances have different strengths, different projections. So understand what you're spraying on your body. Now, this niche fragrance right here from the House of D'Estaing, this one is absolutely smooth, beautiful, understated, elegant. And when you look at the notes here, yeah, it's a soft, powdery, woody fragrance that is masculine, not overpowering, smooth, beautiful. It's got presence. When you get in close, people are going to pick up on it, but it's not the type of a fragrance that screams for attention. And gents, if you'd like to pick up this fragrance, well, go over to today's sponsor, Max Aroma. And in case you don't know, Max Aroma is all about quality, niche fragrances at some of the best prices you're going to find out there. And you can get samples of all their fragrances so you don't have to buy a full bottle. Now, this fragrance right here, M. Micallef's Desire Toxic Intense. And I loved the original. This one is even better. It's stronger, deeper, and this one is friggin' nuclear. One spray and yeah, that's all you need if you're going to be in a confined area. Well, I have to admit, in general, I don't like a strong cannabis note. I didn't really pick it up, but this is an aromatic. It feels like a blue fragrance. It's versatile, earthy, sexy, unique. You're not going to have anything like this in your collection. And speaking of some of my favorite picks, guys, I got to thank Max Aroma for introducing me to the house of Mebussus. In particular, this fragrance right here. Tobacco flirting with vanilla. I don't even wear tobacco vanilla anymore. Tom Forbes, sorry, man. I ended up just falling in love with this beautiful masterpiece fragrance right here. Yes, tobacco is still the main prominent note here. Mixed in with that vanilla with a touch of cherry. Yeah, this one is absolutely beautiful. And speaking of beautiful packaging, let's talk about the fragrance I'm wearing today. From the Spirit of Dubai, we have Amal Metalik. Now, if you're not familiar with the Spirit of Dubai, these guys make some of the most luxurious fragrances on the planet. And when you get one of their fragrances, you see why. These guys spare no expense, and look at the note breakout on this fragrance. I would be lying to you if I said I could smell all of these notes, but what I will tell you, it's strong. It's got projection. It's an absolutely beautiful, woody floral citrus that has a touch of sweetness, is incredibly elegant. Yes, this is going to be more of a Middle Eastern fragrance, so expect it to be a little bit stronger, more masculine. So gents, if you're looking for a niche fragrance that's going to have you standing out from the crowd that smells friggin' amazing, you can grab any of the fragrances I talked about using the links in the description of today's video. And gents, I want to reiterate, when it comes to fragrance, you don't need to overdo it. It's better to be discovered than announce yourself, and you can always reapply. And quickly, a caveat to reapplication. Guys, olfactory fatigue. This is becoming nose blind to what you're wearing. This actually happens naturally. It's a human defense mechanism that we actually start to drown out something that's already smelling there. So just because you can't smell your fragrance, after an hour or two, maybe walk out, get some fresh air, then come in and smell yourself. Believe me, some of these stronger fragrances you become nose blind to. You don't want to be choking people out by over applying your fragrance. And with that being said, how to actually apply the fragrance. Specifically, do you want to apply fragrance to clothing? Now, my answer to this in general is no. There are exceptions to this. I think if you stick with one fragrance, that is your signature scent, then go for it. You're not going to have any issues with wearing a different fragrance on a different day and having a little bit of scent confusion there. But for a lot of guys out there, especially if you've got a larger collection, you are going to best be served by wearing the fragrance closer to the body, directly spraying it onto the skin. Or in my case, I know I usually have an undershirt. So I'll have my undershirt on, I'll be getting dressed in the morning. And whenever I spray in the chest area, I simply pull the shirt out and spray a couple sprays in there, knowing again what my fragrances are and how powerful they'll project. Because the issue I'm getting at and the point I want to make is that your clothing actually will retain the fragrance. Now, as many of you guys know, in a bottle of fragrance, it's distributed by alcohol. And the majority of fragrance that we see right here in the bottle is alcohol. Depending on the concentration, we could have anywhere from 5% to up to 30% of it being the fragrant oil. Now, the fragrance oil, that is what sticks around and actually causes the fragrance to have a smell. So usually once you spray your fragrance on, the alcohol is dissolved within the first few minutes, and the fragrance oil is what sticks around. Now, assuming that you moisturized, the great part is when you spray fragrance onto moisturized skin, it's going to stay there right at the top, stay there with the moisturizer, and be evenly released over usually the next few hours. If you've got drier skin, that process is usually going to go faster, hence why men with drier skin, usually their fragrances don't last as long. With clothing, on the other hand, not only is the fragrance oil going to stick around and last longer, in many cases, because it's removed from the body, there really isn't much heat. It could stick around for 24, 48, even beyond 72 hours. Which again, may not be an issue if you've got a signature extra scent if you wear the same thing again and again. But in some cases, if it's a jacket or if it's a sweater and you're wearing it a couple times in a week and you're not airing out the clothing or washing it regularly, you could have an issue where you've got fragrances overlapping and the smell is less than optimal. And of course, this also applies to body odor. Oftentimes our jackets, our sweaters, we don't wash after every wear. And if they're touching the skin, if sweat is being passed, all of a sudden you can actually have a sweater that starts to, let's just say, reek after a couple wears. Now, a good defense to this is to leverage the power of the undershirt. Undershirts, really what they're for is protection. They collect most of the sweat, the dead skin, so that your sweaters, you don't have to wash after every wear. Now with your cotton dress shirts, button-down shirts, these are relatively easy to take care of. But wool sweaters, those are going to be delicate. You often need to either wash them by hand or send them off to the cleaners. But a quick tip here, especially with jackets or sweaters, if you don't have time to send them out to the cleaners, you need it now and it's got a slight smell to it, is just do some spot cleaning. I know in my laundry room, I keep a wool wash like Woolite that's very gentle on that fabric. You can also use a spray cleaner with a deodorizer whose specific purpose is for spraying onto wool sweaters or jackets. And don't underestimate the power of just airing out a garment. Yes, it may be cold outside, but put that jacket or sweater on a padded hanger, let it air outside for a full day, maybe spray it with a little bit of water and vinegar, and you would be surprised at how many odors just disappear. Now, shoes are another culprit a lot of guys don't think about. And in general, do we expect our shoes to smell great? Probably not. But actually, if you think about it, why not? And definitely you don't want them to smell. So if your shoes smell, it's usually because the sweat of your feet has permeated, the shoe has permeated the leather, and we've got bacteria growing there that of course is emitting that foul odor. Now a quick fix is to sprinkle baking soda inside the shoe, leave it in overnight, and then shake it out in the morning. If it's a leather dress shoe in particular, you should be using shoe trees made from leather that not only maintain the shape of the shoe, but help to keep it dry and eliminate odor. Another good way to prevent odor is to actually rotate your footwear. This gives your shoes time to fully dry out and for those cedar shoe trees to actually do their job. And of course, if the odor is extreme and you still want to be able to salvage the shoes, don't be afraid to use a specialty product that goes in there and will kill the bacteria and freshen the shoe. And don't be afraid to replace the insoles. Sometimes these things right here are the culprit. Just take them out and get a new set. Now, this next one really applies to you guys out there that shower in the evenings. When was the last time you cleaned your bed sheets, in particular, your pillowcase? So every week, at a minimum, you want to be washing your pillowcase. Think about it. All night for like 8 hours. You are rubbing your face in there. Skin is coming off of your face. That is a bacteria breeding ground. In fact, twice a week is probably how often you want to be changing out. And your pillow itself, you want to get a new pillow at least every year. Your sheets as well. You want to be washing these at a minimum once a week. You guys, I get it. You know, you get busy in life and yeah, does anyone notice you're sleeping in there alone? Yes. Believe me, guys, after a while, especially again, if you don't shower in the morning, you're taking that smell throughout the day. And let's talk about your towel. Guys, I know you're saving the planet. You don't like to wash that towel. I mean, you're getting out of the shower, you're clean. Still, skin is coming off your body. Every 2 to 3 uses, every 2 to 3 days, you need to be changing that towel. I know some of you guys are like, come on, I change it every single time. Okay, that's great. You find what works for you. But if you are going a week and you're using the same towel, guys, I admire your dedication to saving the environment. But yeah, let's consider changing it a bit more often. Oh, and almost forgot on laundry. If you think that your clothing has an issue with smell, use one of those detergent boosters that specifically addresses odor. In addition, don't wash your personal clothing with any kitchen towels or rags. Yes, I have made this mistake. My wife points it out. She's like, why did you do that? I was like, hey, I'm trying to conserve. I'm trying to, get everything done in one load. Well, the problem with that is you can imagine a towel that has food on it has a particular smell, which will be passed over to the other clothes. So separate your laundry out. And again, don't be afraid to use those specialty laundry boosters that kill odor. Now, these next ones I thought were kind of obvious, but some of you guys may not know. A lot of odor coming out of your mouth, guys, it's caused because you have a dry mouth. So make sure that you're drinking, your 8 glasses of water a day. If you have deep grooves on your tongue, I know I do, use a tongue scraper. Even if you don't, consider using a tongue scraper. You'd be surprised what comes off that thing. I also highly advise you floss and use mouthwash. Yes, flossing, because you can get little bits of food trapped in there and then you don't even notice it, but yeah, you are emitting a really foul smell. And guys, this can happen to anybody, but gets really bad as you start to age. Your gums recede and the likelihood you're going to have a food pocket in there increases. So yeah, you want to be taking care of that. And this next one, I'm sure most of you guys know, but if you are a really hairy guy. Any place you have hair on your body, you are going to have more odor. That's actually the purpose of it. So in your growing area, in your armpit, on your chest, in your back, if you feel that you have a really strong personal smell and you want to mitigate it, consider actually shaving. All right, Jen, so what about deodorant? Well, I find this is a very personal thing, and I created a whole video on this a while back talking about deodorant, talking about why I actually don't really wear it. I do when I travel, but day to day, do I wear deodorant? No, I don't. And I talk about why. And agree, disagree. Maybe you don't even want to sit next to me if we're on an airplane. I get it. But guys, check out the video right here and see you guys down in the comments.